Coming in, but now it's 1 minute past, so I think we will just start. So I would like to say hi to everyone. We are very happy to have so many with us here today. My name is Maria Bramsø from Ocean Highway Cluster. We are over 70 members, companies and organizations representing the entire value chain for hydrogen and ammonia. And today I have two of these members with me, Fuella and EnBW, and they will give us an introduction to the SkiGA project, which is, as most of you know, a large green ammonia production facility that will be located in Skipavika on the west coast of Norway. And some house rules before we start. For this webinar, you are automatically muted, but feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A section, and that is located right next to the chat function at the top of your screen. And we will take some time to answer these at the end. The webinar will be recorded and sent to you afterwards with the presentation and the questions from the webinar. So without further ado, I will introduce our first speaker for the day, which is Ben Den Hart from EnBW. So go ahead, Ben.
Hello, a very good morning to everyone, and thanks for dialing in to this webinar. So let's get started with some first recap of all the previous webinars that you've seen from the Ocean Highway Cluster, and we are also now a proud member of it because we believe in actually pushing the green ammonia pathway forward. So as you know, ammonia is currently one of the key sources for CO2 emissions, and we believe that green ammonia can basically reduce that by a lot. So for example, natural gas produced ammonia currently emits 2.4 tons per ton of ammonia produced, and in total that's over 1.3% of the global CO2 emissions. At the same time, we see that there's a huge amount of ammonia being traded at the moment, roughly 150 million tons. And looking basically on ways to decarbonize that industry, Norway is one of the ideal locations for that because it has a wide range of renewable power access, as well as relatively close to the customers for potential green ammonia products in Central Europe. Another point why green ammonia makes the race is as a renewable vector. A lot of the industry is currently moving over to hydrogen. Hydrogen needs to be carried, and along the multiple facets of how you can carry hydrogen, ammonia is one of the more favorable ones because it's basically liquid at only -33 degrees. Plus, it has direct applications in the marine sector, for example, as fuel. And also here, Norway is one of the leading actors, also along with all the members here in the Ocean Highway Cluster. Plus, it can be used directly in the feedstock, predominantly in the chemical as well as in the fertilizer industry. When we go further, the ammonia production, or at least the green ammonia production with green hydrogen production, puts a little bit of flexibility to the overall power grid. Because you can basically balance times when you have a high renewable share in there. So I think looking the way forward, building up such an economy makes a lot of sense. And in doing so, we now have basically one of the very first projects in Europe and one of the early projects in Norway, which is coming up, which is the Skipavika Green Ammonia Project, or in short, SkiGA. It is currently being planned to be commercially operational in the second half of 2027. We will be getting out 100,000 tons of ammonia from it, which basically relates to roughly 16,000 tons of hydrogen being produced from a 130 megawatt electrolyzer. And for the ones out of the maritime industry, so these 100,000 tons of ammonia is roughly equivalent to 45,000 tons of VLSFO or 44,000 tons of MGO fuel for your vessels. The project is a joint partnership between EnBW, a utility from Germany, Allianz Capital Partners for the financing, as well as the project developer Fuella. And Fuella will showcase you a lot more about the project in detail in a minute. The project has been selected by the EU Hydrogen Bank, which I think is a positive sign to basically show how serious and how strong it is, because you have a lot of projects out there. And where we stand at the moment, we have the FEED study completed. With that, actually, we also made it quite good to the press, which I think is another indication for the validity of the projects. Just to mention two, Vestre, in his former role as the Minister for Trade and Industry, mentioned the project also in relation to the good partnership between Germany and Norway, and the same happened actually from the Chancellor from Germany during the inauguration of the Hanover Industrial Fair just earlier this year. And with that, I will hand over to give you first-hand information on the projects from the developer, Cornel from the Fuella development team.
Thank you very much, Ben, and very welcome to this webinar also from my side. My name is Cornel Russi. I'm responsible for the project development of the two projects we have in Norway, and Skipavika is the flagship project. And I will now tell you a little bit more about the project itself. You can move one slide, Ben, please. Thanks. So the location is close to Mongstad. I guess most of the Norwegians know Mongstad. It's located about 1.5 hours north of Bergen, in the Fens Fjord. So we share the same fjord as the Equinor refinery and the offshore base that is servicing 20 offshore platforms from there. So it's a very nice location for early ship adoption in this space of oil and gas platform supply vessels, etc. It is a new built green ammonia plant, so we start from scratch. We want to do it in a very standardized manner so that we can replicate the plant in other places later on, and we get down the construction costs, and also for the operation of a portfolio of plants that will help us to keep the costs down and the reliabilities up. The spec is 300 tons of green ammonia per day, which lands us around 100 tons of green ammonia per year, as Ben mentioned already. Also the applications, I think this group here knows it's a very promising fuel for a shipping industry in the future, but also the basis stuff for fertilizer and for a lot of chemical applications like glues, etc. Timeline, we see the operation by the later half of 27 at the moment. It will create around 30 to 50 jobs when it's in operation. It's always a little bit the question what is employed by us and what is services by nearby companies, but it's around in this ballpark figure there for the plant. The CO2 reduction, we have heard from Ben already that it's quite a CO2 intense process today to produce ammonia. So if we take that a little bit into measures that you can feel, the plant will save CO2 emissions in the size of 1/3 of Bergen City's CO2 emissions. So you have quite a good CO2 reduction by producing green ammonia and then replace the gray ammonia in the market. Very nice for the green ammonia production is the feedstock. We only use renewable power to drive our compressors and machines and motors, etc. Water and air. We don't need any other feedstock to produce green ammonia. And then on the location, some other extras that make this place very nice is that there is possible synergies for the excess of oxygen and heat that we have in the process. This is a very good basis for fish farms because they need to enrich the water with oxygen, and they can use some heat to levelize the temperature of the seawater that they use in their fish farms. As well as mentioned already, close to Mongstad, which has, I think, around 3,000 ships calling per year. So it's a lot of potential for ammonia as a fuel for shipping in this location, that they can very easily just fill up their ships at our port directly from the plant. And as mentioned earlier as well, especially in Westland, where the power grid has some issues, as you might know, it's very nice to provide the demand-side flexibility to the grid, so that if there is some tight hours, as they call it, cold winter nights where a lot of heating power is needed for the residential consumers, we can reduce our production, and then we contribute to a more stable grid and also to a cheaper grid, because you kind of can overbook the grid by demand side measures. And then, very nice, we have been accepted as a member of the local UNESCO biosphere, and we want to contribute to the green growth in Westland with our project. Yeah, next slide. A little bit more about how we structure these projects. So Fuella is the developer. That means we are coordinating a lot of partners who have their own specialties. So one of them is EnBW, as Ben is working for. They are our partner for the bulk offtake and the transportation of the ammonia. So they buy on a long-term contract, and then they sell in smaller quantities at places where the clients want it delivered. So that's their role they take in this project. We have Allianz Capital Partners on the investor side. It's the investment vehicle of Allianz, which is the biggest insurance company in the world. So they are placing typically pension money into investments to let the pension money work until it's used then for our retirements. We have the local partners, the Skipavika Industrial Park, which are part of the project also in the shareholding. They provide all the utilities at site, as the key, the water, and the leveling, the internet, and a lot of site-related services for us. Then on the financing side, on the debt financing side, we have a collaboration with BNP Paribas, which is the financing arranger, meaning they structure the financing and invite also other financing partners to join the project, but they are doing that as a lead arranger. It's the role, so we don't have to deal with 5 different banks. So BNP Paribas is doing that job with us, and then invite the banks for their bids to debt finance the project. That is also ongoing at the moment. We have Casale as an engineering and EPC partner. Casale is a company based in Switzerland, which has more than 100 years experience in ammonia technology, but also in the construction of ammonia plants and other chemical plants like urea, and things like that. And we have on the power side a partnership with Hafslund Echo for a long-term power supply agreement. So this is a little bit the key partners. There is some more like insurances, etc. But these are the key partners we work with on the big work streams or big topics of the project. So a very, very diverse group with each of them having their specialties to contribute to the success of the project. When you look at the project status, we are now at the end of the FEED. So we have received the bids for all the pumps and valves and equipment, and also the installation works to be done on the plant. We know all the guarantees that we have on the plant, the performance guarantees, etc. So we are ready to. We have now a firm grip on the costs and the performances, etc. of the plant, the timelines. Yeah, that's it. Thanks.
Very well. So then I will take over again. And based on actually the fabulous work that the Fuella team is doing here in developing the project, I can now show a little bit of what we as EnBW, as the aggregator of the volumes do, because we are now basically supplying that precious green ammonia either to the industry world or at the same time, for example, also to the maritime world to kickstart the ammonia as a fuel. And to showcase you two of the applications right now, what we're doing is first the industrial use case and then the maritime use case. So out of the Skipavika project, we are getting for the industries RED 2 as well as RED 3 compliant RFMBO ammonia. The maximum carbon intensity is here indicated to be below 28.2 kilograms per CO2. That value will be significantly lower, but the 28.2 that you see in here is basically the regulatory maximum that you're allowed to have, and actually the absolute amount will depend a little bit how the delivery to the place of the consumption looks like. But realistically, if delivered, for example, to a facility in Central Europe, you should be well below values of 5. The quality of the specifications is similar to most other green ammonia facilities, greater than 99.5% ammonia in there in the wet content, less than 0.5 water, and a specific gravity of 0.682 at negative 33 degrees Celsius. With that, for industrial uses, we basically market that ammonia in 3 delivery types. One is FOB, which basically means handed over at the jetty, which is right next to the facility and the plant in the Skipavika fjord. That jetty is actually ocean-going vessel ready, so water depth is greater than 15 meters, so you can dock there. The second option is delivery ex-ship, for example, to a receiving terminal, predominantly in northern or, for example, northwestern Europe, which are the famous ones, Rostock, Rotterdam, Antwerp, which you have, plus the new ammonia receiving terminals, which are currently being planned. Will obviously depend on where the clients want it at the end. And last but not least, we can equally deliver at place, which is, for example, predominantly of interest to companies that don't want to take the hassle of all the logistics, as well as, for example, for smaller quantities. Anyone who's interested in learning more, we do have a term sheet, we do have information packages around that. We distribute these upon the conclusion of an NDA, and are more than happy to, for example, walk you through further and also explore with you how the ammonia can, for example, help you in reaching your CO2 targets or your decarbonizations. Similar to the world with the industries, we also have ammonia, and here especially in Norway as one of the key pillars for converting the fuel sector for the maritime industry. And worth noting here also our fuel will be, or the ammonia will be in compliance with the ReFuelEU Maritime, also with the RFMBO regulations on that. You see here exactly the same quantities again, but rest assured the actual CO2 content will be significantly lower for ReFuel Maritime. If you pick it up at the jetty, you can calculate with almost zero. Quality obviously is the same. For the bunkering, we currently offer basically two options. One is directly to bunker at the jetty in Skipavika. That jetty is going to have a bunkering arm to basically load the vessels. The jetty is ocean-going vessel ready, so that means larger vessels can dock there. And at least for everyone operating out of Mongstad, it's basically just across the fjord with a distance of 4.5 nautical miles, so relatively close to that one. Upon customer interest, we can also use third parties or partners that we have and currently build up partnerships in the network, and more are about to come to, for example, supply the ammonia to other locations. Obviously, that will be subject to additional costs for the transportation of that fuel. Well, the more vessels you have at the same port, the better it is. An interesting aspect, everyone who's planning to get an ammonia vessels, there's currently a deadline of the Innova application funding for end of this week on September 27th. We are happy to conclude MOUs for the supply, or at least for intention for supply with you. That, together with any further information packages, again, is subject to an NDA, which we, for example, can conclude on short notice and distribute it to you. If you're interested to that, just drop us a note, okay? If you actually want to get in contact and learn more, along with the invitation as well as on the website, here you see the contact details from both of us. Was mentioning also from EnBW, there was recently a tender for the ammonia where the results are currently being processed. So if you want to learn more about that, check out the link down below, or basically drop us an email to the address shown, or for example also directly to me. We will basically then contact you forward. And with that, with Stu, I'll hand back over to Maria for some concluding words.
Yes, thank you very much, Ben. Before we move to the Q&A session, I have to mention Ocean Highway Cluster's Hydrogen Conference coming up 15th and 16th of October. It's the 9th year we are doing it, so it's become quite an established arena. So if you're interested, I would recommend you to visit our conference website, maritimehydrogen.no. And then Ben, next slide. Thank you. There have actually come a few questions when some of the company registered. So the first one is, what are the offtake markets for the scale, and how can you provide, and can you provide any metrics for pricing expectations?
I mean, as stated before, most of the details around the pricing are subject to having an NDA concluded first. So everyone who wants to learn more about the project, please use the contact information provided, and we will basically get in touch with you to negotiate forward. So I can unfortunately not share direct, let's say, pricings right here in the open. But obviously it will depend then also on a lot of different factors, right? So quantity, the more you buy, the cheaper it gets. Tenure, the longer you basically fix your contract, the cheaper it gets. And also delivery options and delivery points, right? The closer you are to the production facility, the lower the price is going to be. And yeah, I think I
Mhm.
can go as far as that one. Maybe minimum quantities. So currently we market the minimum quantities of 1,000 tons at the jetty. For other locations, the quantities would need to go a little bit up in order to actually make the transportation viable.
How about the maximum amount?
Well, the maximum obviously would be the 100,000 tons full production amount, right? But I have to say that we also have already other interested parties in that. So yeah, full maximum might not longer be possible.
Okay, and the second question, this is a company who's interested in the cracking technology. How mature is it and how much does it cost? I don't know if you would be have you looked into cracking technology in regards to this project?
Well, not with this project, but we as a company obviously look into the cracking technology. I mean, the crackers obviously would be placed at the receiving terminals. I'm not the expert to actually tell you the exact prices for that, and I'm also not the expert to tell you the technology readiness. What I can tell you is that first pilots are currently being constructed on that one, but we will get back to you with a more proper answer to that one, or for example, share your information. Then we will link you to the right experts for that.
Okay, and a new question here. Who can we contact to try to become a supplier to the project?
In that case, I think the best contact would be Cornell from the Fuella, but I think it heavily would depend on what supply, right?
Yes, so we have to get a bit Casale, so there are the procurement packages, but happy that you get in contact with me, and then I can send you to the right persons within Casale, because Casale is doing all the procurement of the sub packages like work or different valves and pipes and these pumps. So that we do together with Casale. But happy that you contact me and we can get in touch and see what you want to deliver to the project, and then we can see how or if we can fit it into.
Also, you mentioned RF NBO compliance. How do you make sure that you get a green certificate?
Multiple steps. So obviously we started a pre-certification works together with certification parties on that one, which means we can assure that the RFMBO compliance certificates will be issued. Obviously along the construction process, which is yet to come. And once all permits are in, that certification will be ensured together with the project team. And by that, we can ensure that RFMBO will be delivered and also certified according to the current rules. We have a whole team working on that one. Yeah.
Okay. That was all the questions that had come in. If there are no further, I think that's a wrap. So I hope we managed to give you a good introduction to the project. Or are there anything you would like to add, Cornel and Ben? All good?
I actually love the opportunity to actually showcase this project because it's one of the very first ones. And I'm just looking a little bit on the attendance list here, just on the names. I also love the engagement from the Norway team because I think it's great to see a country where we are engaged with to actually get this green transition moving. So yeah, if you have something to bring to the table or to contribute, if you want to, as well as, for example, if you want to get it moving together with us, feel free to reach out. You have the contact details, and yeah, let's stay in touch on that. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, thank you very much to both Ben and Cornel for taking the time to share your insight with us. And regarding the rest of you, we are sending out the webinar, the presentations, and also the answer to all the questions that you have posed in the webinar. So I wish you all a good day and a good lunch. Bye.
Thanks.